A very good afternoon to you. You're with News First Lunchtime News Bulletin. Let's take a look at the headlines. First, the mortal remains of the late most venerable Udugama Sri Buddha Rakita Thera brought to the Askiri Vihare in Kandy. Prime Minister of Bhutan arrives in Sri Lanka on a 3-day state visit. Ram Nildari Nangunukola Palace arrested in possession of illicit liquor. The US is well aware that Houthi rebels in Yemen are being supported by Iran, a statement from the US Secretary of State. Into those stories in detail, the mortal remains of the chief prelate of the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect, Most Venerable Udugama Sri Buddha Rakita Thera, was brought to the Askiri Vihare in Kandy today. The mortal remains of the late chief prelate, which was brought to the country from Singapore last night, was placed at a private funeral parlour in Colombo, and the cortege left for Kandy this morning. The cortege departed from Boralla via Paliagoda along the Kandy road and reached the Kiribati town by 7 a.m. Devotees who were mourning the demise of the chief prelate gathered on the either side of the road to pay their respects. The procession then reached the Kegal town, passing Kadawata, Nitambua and Varakapola via Pasyala. Devotees, including the Chief Minister of the Sabaragamu province, lined the streets to pay their respects to the late Most Venerable Udugama Sri Buddha Rakita Thera. The cortege then passed Mavanella and Pilimatalawa, reaching the Kandy town by around 11 this morning. Thereafter, the mortal remains were placed at the Askiri Mahavihara. The Deputy General Manager of the Foreign Employment Bureau, Mangala Randeniya, states that the remaining 16 Sri Lankan nationals who were evacuated to Djibouti from Yemen will be brought back to Sri Lanka tomorrow. 29 of the group returned to Sri Lanka last night.
The flight carrying the Sri Lankans arrived at the Bandar Naik International Airport at 8:15 last evening. The group had been evacuated from Yemen to Djibouti with the intervention of the Chinese government on the 7th of this month, prior to arriving in Sri Lanka yesterday. Our correspondent stated that the group arrived aboard Qatar Airways flight QR656. Our cameras captured a large gathering at the airport to welcome the group.
Air strikes were launched in certain cities in Yemen by Saudi Arabia about 2 weeks ago. The Sri Lankans decided that we needed to return home when the airstrikes got intense. However, the problem was that the Saudi government had cancelled flights to Yemen and also the ships, so we didn't even get a chance to travel back at our expense. The only way for us to return home was the intervention of a government. We spoke to the Oman embassy, and this is a result of it. Our embassy in Oman helped us a lot, and also the Chinese government and even the Sri Lankan embassy in Kenya. I think all of the 43 Sri Lankans who are willing to come with us have already left Yemen by now.
Embassy අපිට උදව් කරා මම හිතන්නේ අපිත් එක්ක එන්න කැමති 43 දෙනාම දැන් මේ වෙද්දි යෙමන් වලින් පිටත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතනම මේ අවස්ථාවේදී මේ සූත්‍රයන් තියෙනවා Newsfirst.
I would like to thank Newsfirst at this moment. We initially contacted Newsfirst. Our situation was revealed through Newsfirst. We are thankful for that. We also thank everyone who helped us. We especially thank Newsfirst for looking into us and staying with us from the beginning till the end.
A fish elegant in appearance but toxic in nature and quite rare in Sri Lanka was found in the Hambantota area by a group of fishermen. According to our correspondent, the lionfish, considered an invasive species in the West Atlantic and the Caribbean, was discovered by a group of prawn fishermen. The lionfish, also known as the zebrafish or pterois, have few identified natural predators, likely from the effectiveness of their venomous spines and unique tentacles. Bhutanese Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay arrived in the island this morning on a 3-day state visit. The aim of the visit is to further strengthen bilateral ties between Sri Lanka and Bhutan. The Premier of Bhutan arrived at the Katnaik International Airport at 10:45 this morning. The Ministry of External Affairs noted that the Bhutanese Premier is due to hold high-level discussions with President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The Bhutanese premier is also due to tour the cities of Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa as well as visit the Peradeniya Botanical Gardens. The Ministry of External Affairs noted that Prime Minister Shering Tobgay and President Maithripala Sirisena will hold discussions tomorrow. The ministry added that several agreements will also be signed during these discussions. The Cabinet subcommittee appointed to examine the controversial Uma Oya project has held discussions with the Central Environment Authority and the expert committee appointed to study the project.
Nihal Rupasinghe, Secretary of the Ministry of Marwali Development and Environment, said questions were raised at these talks on the environment impact assessment carried out on the project. Rupasinghe noted that extensive inquiries had been made into the contents of the expert committee report and from the committee members themselves. A report by the Cabinet subcommittee on the Uma Oya project will be submitted to the Cabinet within the next 2 weeks. The Secretary added that the decision on the future course of action for the Uma Oya project will depend on the contents of the subcommittee's report.
Still in local news, security has been beefed up in the Kotakatene area in Kahavatta. Police media spokesperson ASP Ruwan Gunasekara stated that the police and the STF have been deployed in the area for security purposes.
With regard to the murder in Kahavatta, Kotaketana, further investigations are being conducted by Kahavatta Police and Pelambu Crime Division on different directions. Further strengthen the securities of this area, special roadblocks, night police patrols have been introduced with STF in addition to the police post.
Meanwhile, statements have been recorded from more than 50 individuals with regard to the murder of a woman in Kahavatta. In more local news, a Grama Niladhari has been arrested in the Angunakola Palace area with a stock of moonshine. Police stated that the officer was attached to the Guru Banihegara area in the Hunugama Police Division. It was reported that the stock of moonshine had been found inside the Grama Niladhari's room. The suspect is due to be presented before court tomorrow. The police noted that the 54-year-old suspect had been in practice of distilling moonshine. Meanwhile, 2 police officers have been arrested on bribery charges. Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara stated yesterday that the 2 police officers were arrested by officers of the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption. The arrested include a sub-inspector and a police constable. With that, we conclude this edition of Lunchtime News. Your next news update comes your way at 1:55. For everyone here at News First, I'm Saturang Hapawarachi. Have a productive day ahead.